Please come closer. I don't know what happened with this room, but people tend to be much apart, and I don't bite unless I'm requested to do so. Hola, muy buenas tardes. Estamos transmitiendo el día de hoy vía Facebook Live, también para que las personas que nos escuchan vía las redes sociales nos acompañen a ver una estupenda exposición fotográfica del gran artista Luis Carlos Bernal, que está acompañada por los textos con testimonios muy relevantes, recopilados por Patricia Preciado Martín, quien el día de hoy iba a acompañarnos, pero por cuestiones de salud no podrá estar con nosotros, pero van a poder leer todos estos textos que están aquí para ustedes, tanto en el libro original como en un iPad, para que lo puedan también disfrutar con toda tranquilidad y conocer estas historias de personas mexicoamericanas que antes que nosotros poblaron esta bella región del sur de Arizona y de Tucson. Si me permiten, también voy a cambiar a inglés, porque tenemos en la sala muchos asistentes cuyo idioma principal es el inglés, así que sirva esto también para recordarles a las personas que nos están viendo el día de hoy que los invitamos en el consulado de 8 de la mañana a 5 de la tarde. Todo lo que hacemos en el consulado es totalmente gratuito, de entrada libre para personas mexicanas y personas no mexicanas también. Así que los esperamos en la Galería Leonora Carrington desde mañana en adelante. I want to thank and welcome everybody today. We are extremely happy to have this exhibition, and I want to start by thanking several persons that made this possible. I will start with David Andres, who actually made this possible. And let me tell you something about how this idea started. I went to San Francisco more than 1 year ago, and in the MoMA in San Francisco, one of the top-notch museum in the United States, in the world actually, there was a room dedicated to the photography of Louis Carlos Bernal. And I was amazed by the beauty of his pictures. But at the same time, I have never had the opportunity to see in Tucson the photographies of Luis Carlos Bernal. Of course, I knew that in the Creative Center of Photography of the University of Arizona, they have this collection. But I mentioned that by coincidence to David, and he said, well, you know what? We are preparing this exhibition, this beautiful exhibition at the Pima Community College. And he said, and you know what? I have the text in English, but it would be great to have them in Spanish. And I said, I will be delighted to actually help you to translate that into Spanish. I thought that he was referring to this text, not the whole book. But I had made a commitment, and I was actually quite happy, even when I saw the extension of the book. But in all honesty, I don't think I had the opportunity to learn about Tucson and about Mexican Americans in Tucson as much as I did when I started reading those texts. Because, of course, when you see the pictures, you can feel so many emotions. And I was talking before about how intimate connection Louis Carlos Bernal could make with these people that were photographed, because they basically invited him to come to their intimacies. And they also invited Patricia, and they started talking about histories and stories of their own families that actually made us aware of how this continuum of the presence of people of Mexican origin in this area has never been interrupted. When they talk about family members that were in what is now Arizona, before Arizona was part of the United States, then you see this connection, these never-ending connections of Mexican Americans in the present. There was one particular testimonial that it was like a little bit heartbreaking to me, but at the same time very revealing. And it was that of someone who lost a property around the Rincon Mountains. And he said that he didn't even want to fight it in courts because that was part of the Coronado National Forest, and that's how he lost it. But he said, but that had happened to my family when they were in California, and they moved to this area before the Gadsden Purchase, and that happened again to him. So his family had lost property in different ways, but he was like, at the end, drained of energy to fight, because he said, this is happening to me again. I just cannot believe it. After I moved from California and I came to this area that was still Mexico, and then of course it turns into the United States, and then he lost his property again, and other neighbors around his property did not. So that was the part this is not a coincidence, that's what he thought. So all of that is, I think those are fundamental explanations of what Mexican Americans experiences and lives and how they have been, and so many other were extremely fun to read. So part of this exhibition is to know the stories of all these peoples, not only to see them but also to read about them, and you get to see those both in the original books and also in the iPads that you will find on the columns, both in English and my perhaps not so great translation. And a wonderful thing when I was trying to translate is realizing how hard it is actually to translate, because I even wanted to give the rhythm in which these people were speaking. You cannot translate them from English if perhaps they had a very simple life, and then in Spanish sound like a university professor. That would be like treason for the stories of these people. But sometimes it's the way I talk. But that was what I tried to avoid, not talking the way I talk. But I think a good thing about me trying to do this is, like, I am from a very little town in Sonora, so I try to make them sound like an old person in Sonora in a small town will talk. And I think that was very similar. It's not that I think, it's actually the stories they were talking about. It's like most of them came from Magdalena, from Hermosillo, from different areas in Sonora. So I'm pretty sure their Spanish was not as different than my Spanish. So, but also it was beautiful that Spanglish. How do you translate Spanglish into Spanish? And that happened to me several times. Like how I was also talking to Ricardo about this. Is like, how do you translate Sabino Canyon? Sabino is the name of a tree. You don't translate Sabino into English. I don't even know how to say Sabino in, I don't know, whatever. But do you say El Cañón de Sabino in Spanish? Doesn't make any sense either. I have never heard someone in Tucson say, I'm going to El Cañón del Sabino. Everybody says that they're going to Sabino Canyon, even if they're speaking full Spanish. So with this example, I found so many in which it was so hard for me to try to put into Spanish something that was in Spanglish already, and also as I mentioned, having the opportunity to get to know the pride that people from Tucson have in their own heritage. That's fantastic. It's beautiful, and also the nostalgia. Most of them, as you will see, are people from a certain age, and they were very nostalgic about the urban development of the U.S. cities that had displaced them from barrios in downtown to the suburban areas. And it's the enemy is too powerful. You cannot fight it. So they saw that their children and grandchildren were not going to be able to live the experience of having a neighbor to talk to in the way they have done, or the group that they were forming in their own barrios. And we know that how hurtful was for those communities actually being evicted, for those barrios to build like the Tucson Convention Center at some point, and or having their businesses displaced because they didn't have customers already, because they were attending the malls for that time. So it was also like having a window into the past, and through their nostalgia, learning how things can be different in our cities too, in our communities. I think what they were longing for was that sense of belonging, that perhaps they saw that it was threatened by the time that they were talking with Patricia. And it's fantastic. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn about Mexican Americans, to learn about Tucson and Southern Arizona, and at the same time having the opportunity to see them, to see their faces, to see their regards, their looks, and the beautiful intimate spaces that they were sharing with us, as they were sharing also very intimate stories of their own families, and personal experiences, like going to the Rio Santa Cruz when when there was a river over there. So sorry if I took a little bit longer than I expected. I want to also thank Mariana Castro, who was also instrumental in making this preparation. I know that David will be able to thank. There was a student of you who also helped you. So I also recognize, but Patricia, of course, and the legacy of Luis Carlos. And with no further ado, I would like to give the floor to David and to talk about this exhibition, and to try to learn a little bit more and to enjoy a little bit more. And please help us to share to anyone that we will be very happy to receive them here at the Mexican Consulate every single day. Well, Monday to Friday mostly, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thank you so much.
Well, Raphael did my job for me about introducing exactly what this exhibition is about. I have had the privilege to be the director of the Luis Carlos Bernal Gallery, excuse me, for the last almost 20 years. So it took me a while to actually bring something like this together. It was not an easy task, because all of Luis Carlos Bernal's archives are at the Center for Creative Photography, and they're under lock and key. You have to make appointments, you have to go in, and you only have, someone has to be with you when you're looking at the archives, and then they write everything down, and then you purchase the scans. So that the excuse me, these black and white images can be produced. We're lucky at Pima, though, because we have a individual in the photo lab department, Ernesto Esquire, who today is actually his birthday. I had invited him to come tonight, but he declined because his partner wanted to go out to dinner, and I certainly understand. But he was diligent about making the proper scale, because you have to realize Bernal died in 1993, and it was before digital photography was ever even invented. So all of his images for this particular book that we've been talking about, which is this book here, Images and Conversations, it was something that was just done in little plates, just to make the book. And the University Press put that book together with Patricia Paseo Martin. By the way, she is unable to be here tonight because she contracted COVID. And so she is unable to be with us. She really wanted to be. And she is a fabulous speaker. If you ever get to hear her talk, she has got some incredible tales about producing this book. And one of those is that Luis Carlos Bernal wasn't for sure that he actually wanted to be involved with being basically illustrating a text of a book. And after he started going out with her to certain sites, he was convinced. He just said, this is exactly where I want to take my work. And if you'll look at his later work, a lot of the intimate portraits, like the one by Raphael here, is in the middle of someone's living quarters and their home. And that is something that became his signature work throughout the rest of his life. He unfortunately was taken from us by being involved in a bicycle accident and was in a coma for 4 years. And his insurance ran out, and Pima community came together and auctioned off artwork, did all kinds of things to keep his 24/7 care going until his 52nd birthday in 1993, August 18th. And anyway, that is sort of the background of this. But Ernesto, back to Ernesto, he really put his heart into producing these into some sort of scale issue, translating it from a 2 1/4 image and a 35 millimeter image, because Lou was notorious for carrying 2 to 3 cameras with him at every place he ended up going, so that he could record in color, he could record in 35 millimeter, and then 2 1/4. So the square format is obviously the 2 1/4, and the rectangular ones are in the 35 millimeter. It's difficult to reproduce black and white images into digital format. There's some gray tones that you sometimes lose, and Ernesto is just amazing at bringing all of those out. I'm really thankful for all of you guys for coming tonight. This is the second iteration of this exhibit. It was first at the Luis Carlos Bernal Gallery last August through first part of October. And a lot of people are gone in our community during that time period, and I know that. And so I approached Raphael about maybe putting this in, at some time in one of their slots that was available. It came on me sort of suddenly, but it was I was able to come in and install the exhibition. And it was Judith too. I don't know where Judith, oh, there she is. She is amazing to work with. And the whole staff here was just incredible. This is my second time at bringing an exhibition here. The other one is called Invisible Borders. And it's an exhibition about 19 Mexican women photographers and 12 women photographers from the Tucson area. And that is going to be moved just this month down to the Tubac Center for the Arts. And the reception is going to be on the 19th of April from 5 to 7. It's a Friday evening. If you guys are interested, please come. It's always, there's several exhibitions going on at once, and some of the artists will be there from here. None of the artists from, unfortunately, from Mexico can make it, but the other artists will be there to enjoy it. If you have personal questions about the individual works, I might want to back up a little bit too. I must admit, when this was shown at Bernal, family members, we looked up obituaries, literally, to find the legacy of these individuals, because all of them are deceased in this book, because it was produced in 1982. And lots of the family came. It was remarkable to see the joy on their faces and the conversation that they came up with about, oh, my parents were married in this church. I was baptized at this location. You know, it's just remarkable to see these stories. There's 13 different families here that are represented. Some of them quite well known, like Escalante. Our road, our street, was named after this individual. So there's some really wonderful people that are portrayed in these photographs. It starts in the other room with a map, and thankful to Raphael for translating that, because if you try doing that in Google Translate, it is a mess. And so I'm really thankful for you pulling that together. It's really rewarding. He also, Raphael gave a wonderful talk, similar to the one that he gave earlier down at the Pima County, where actually I got married down at that location. But it was a wonderful speech that he gave to a very small audience, and I'm really thankful that you came together and are willing to be here to enjoy the makings that I tried to curate, but with the help of that book. This book is amazing, and he's right. These stories are beautifully written, and it's too bad that Patricia is not here to enjoy it, because she is a lovely person, and hopefully maybe we'll get her over here and see if we can try to make it happen again. All right, thank you. Ready? Enjoy the exhibition.
So does anyone has a question or comment? Don't feel shy.
So is the book still available here, or I know you can get it on Amazon, but
That's about the only place you can get it. It all, the U of A Press has it in their storage in Phoenix. And even for us at the Bernal Gallery, with her talking, she was going to do a book signing. We couldn't get any of them, but I had 7 of them, and you probably noticed there's several images that are tagged, well labeled, that are missing images. Those are opened up to the book page so that you can get a full story about what's going on in the book. Yes.
Is the iPad material different from the physical?
No, exactly the same. Okay. We just have to, translate it to the both languages. Which is,
David, is there any chance that those copies that they've got will be opened up? I mean, you said you couldn't get them. Why are they being retained or not available?
it's not that they're being retained, Steve. They are just being held in there, and you have to individually order books through the U of A Press. Yeah, they own them, so that you have to go through them. Yeah, I was hoping to have some out here and at the Bernal Gallery when we did that, but it was beyond us.
David, so you can buy them on the online University of Arizona Press online. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to Amazon then. There's also in Amazon, but yes.
Amazon, you go directly to U of A Press.
I bought a vintage version in Amazon, so it's another tip.
So take some time, and you can, by the way, these iPads, you can flip right through to one of the photographs up there, and it'll give you the whole story about the family. And there's 6 of them, 2 in the other room and 4 on either side of this column.
Well, thank you. We're going to end the broadcasting. Muchas gracias a las personas que estaban. Oh, yes, please.
at the beginning you mentioned that this gentleman's land was stolen in California and stolen here. Was it stolen by eminent domain, or how did they acquire the land?
Well, in California, I think it was, but here it was an expropriation. They call that?
Yeah.
Yes, it was an expropriation for the Coronado National Forest. So his ranch was expropriated for the forest, for the national forest. So it was the government, yes. So yeah, and that's not the only story that talks about the government for development, buying land for development. In that case, was buying land for the protection of the environment. But he says, but there were neighboring ranches that were not affected, but mine was, and mine last name is Hernandez, and the other last names are different. So I think it's something that he resented. Particularly, he felt like personally attacked, or not attacked, personally, yes, or affected because of his ethnicity more than so. But it's an interesting story. It's I think it's the grandson that is talking about that of his grandfather.
Right. I think part of that was for easement, also for road development and things, and that's one reason it sort of targeted that area. That's what I got from that story. But it's on the wall, so you
Yeah.
take it away.
Ricardo?
Very quickly, for those of you who want to learn more about that process, there is a very wonderful book by Rodolfo Cunha, Occupy America. And it tells a lot of the stories from people who were dispossessed. And that was through powerful companies, powerful individuals who just took advantage of possession of lands that people owned. But there was a whole legalistic judicial process that took place as well. So it was the player powerful interests that.
Yeah, and let's recall that in the treaty between Mexico and the United States that created these new territories for the U.S., the Tratado Guadalupe Hidalgo, as it is called in Spanish, there was a provision that Mexicans will retain their lands, but the thing was, like, in the courts, English-speaking courts, they weren't able to actually defend their rights for so many different circumstances. So it is a very complex process that it is in the testimonials that you will see here. And it's not from a historical sociological point of view, but more like it's like what happened in my family. So I think that's why it is a very valuable testimonial regarding that process in the territories that were formerly Mexico or the New Spain, and how those families at some point started losing their lands for one reason or the other. Thanks to you, and please help us to spread the word with people that I'm pretty sure they're going to benefit from this exhibition.
Yeah, if I may, I wanted to tell you that even though we purchased the scans for this exhibition and produced the prints, our plan is that these will eventually be in his archives at the Center for Creative Photography. Next September, the Center for Creative Photography is producing a 300-page book on Luis Carlos Bernal and his legacy. If you open up the history of Latinx and Chicano photography, the first person that's mentioned is Luis Carlos Bernal. So he's an important factor, and we were lucky enough to have him in Tucson and at Pima College. But the nice thing about this is that it's going to live on with the archives at the center. And next year in the fall, there's going to be the whole fall semester at the University of Arizona and at Pima, most of them at Pima, not quite as the whole semester, but we are going to be doing lectures. We're going to be doing bringing in individuals from museums that have done their dissertations on about Bernal, and they're going to be talking about how he not only lived and worked in Tucson, but how he affected the entire art population, especially in photography in the United States. So we're very privileged to have him, and unfortunately he was cut off right at the middle of his productive years, and I think no one knows how he could have influenced Latinx artists going on in the future. But we can make our own assumptions, and I hope you guys can come to those events. I think the first one is on September 9th at CCP, and then the most important one, the formal one, is on October 19th. And there's a huge reception going to be happening with the author of the book, Elizabeth Fair. She's like one of the best known female writers about Mexican American and Latin photography. So please join us and celebrate his life again in next fall. All right, thank you.